Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to part 6 of Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Perhaps you're admiring my toucan pants. Yes, this is week 4 of our... Where's the little toucans? Week 4 of our quarantine upon this ship. These pants have been quite comfortable lately. Oh, what else has been going on? Tragically, my favorite country singer John Prine died last night, playing victim to the terrible plague. It's out there, keeping me a prisoner in these captain's quarters. But I have Perry, I have my puppies, I have my woman. We have fun, we cook, you know. Alright, where did we leave off? Part 5. Part 5 ends with the ancient mariner. He is unconscious because his boat is traveling at a superhuman speed. But as he's unconscious, he hears two nature spirits speaking to each other. Rewinding a little bit, the nature spirit who had taken the mariner, or punished the mariner for killing the albatross, has passed the mariner and the ship full of angel zombies off to two other nature spirits. So part 6 picks up with two nature spirits talking to each other. The ancient mariner has passed out, but he still hears their voices. For the voices of these nature spirits, I'll go back to my original impression of the futuristic person who sounds like an effeminate robot. Part 6, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So the first voice on line 410 says, "But tell me, speak again, thy soft response renewing, what makes that ship drive on so fast? What is the ocean doing?" The first nature spirit voice, seems like these, they're not omniscient. Asks the second nature spirit, how is that ship traveling so quickly across the ocean? And the second voice replies, "Still as a slave before his lord, the ocean hath no blast. His great bright eye most silently upon the moon is cast. For he may know which way to go, for she guides him smooth or grim. See, brother, see, how graciously she looketh down on him." It's a really strange response that the second voice of the nature spirit gives. You have two entire stanzas that don't seem to advance the plot of the story at all. The second voice basically, compares the ocean to the moon and says the ocean is still as a slave before his lord, the moon. And moon is capitalized here, so you have those capitnim connotations of the moon being some divine thing. And ocean isn't. I have no idea why Coleridge decides to include this in here. My one theory is you have throughout the poem this idea that there's a physical world that we can see, and there's some invisible world that's causing things in the physical world to happen. So you have that spiritual idea of spiritual and visible forces causing things to happen in the physical world. Maybe this is just being mirrored here, where the ocean that is of this earth appears to move, it has waves, but it's actually the tides are being controlled by the moon. And that's not a new idea. For sailors have always known that, like back when people would pay much more attention to the nighttime skies and the movement through the seasons. They had to have noticed that the tides, or the moon and the tides, are interrelated. So at this point, the voice is saying, the moon, this heavenly celestial being, is controlling the physical things that happen on Earth. Maybe that's what Coleridge is trying to say here. I'm not sure, but it's a strange digression. And then the first voice asks again, so you didn't answer my question. So the first voice says, "But why drives on that ship so fast, without wind or wave? And according to the gloss, the mariner hath been cast into a trance, for the angelic power causes the vessel to drive northward faster than human life can endure." Okay, so the first voice asks, what's pushing this thing on so fast? And the second voice replies, line 424, "The air is cut away before, and closes from behind." So you have this like supernatural motion where it's just flying through the air in some supernatural way. And the second voice continues on, "Fly, brother, fly! more high, or we shall be belated. It sounds like he's talking to the first voice and says, fly, fly more high, like that ship's moving fast. If we don't move fast also, we won't keep up with it. And the second voice continues on, for slow and slow that ship will go when the mariner's trance is abated. So when the mariner wakes up from the supernatural sleep, the ship will slow down, and then move at like regular human speeds. But you still have some weird supernatural motion going on. So we're back to the mariner telling the story. He's going to wake up right now. I woke, and when we were sailing on, as in the gentle weather, 'twas night, calm night, the moon was high, the dead men stood together. So the narrator, or the mariner wakes up right here, and he sees, let's see here, so the weather's nice, and he sees the whole crew of angel zombies, who still have that look in their eye that they died with, that stank eye they were giving him. They're all gathered together. And the mariner continues on. Oh, the gloss says, the supernatural motion is retarded. Not an insult. It means its growth is slowed, so it stopped moving at the supernatural space, and now the mariner's woken up. The mariner wakes, and his penance, or the price he has to pay for killing the albatross, begins anew. Ooh, some more scary bad things are going to happen. So he continues on, talking about the angel zombie crew that's been manning the ship. All stood together on the deck for a charnel dungeon fair. All fixed on me their stony eyes that in the moon did glitter. So here he says they're more fit for a charnel dungeon, which I had to look up because there's no footnote here. It is, picture like catacombs underneath. You'll see them in Europe, like in France. I know other countries have them. But underneath churches they have like tombs for bodies. So the mariner here is saying basically the tombs, or the whole crew, this zombie ghost crew, looks like they are more fit to live in one of these tombs, or scary tombs, than they are to be manning a ship. And he continues on, so he says their eyes are reflecting the moon. And continues on, the pang, the curse with which they died had never passed away. I could not draw my eyes from theirs, nor turn them up to pray. This mirrors something else that happened earlier on, when the mariner is out dying of thirst and he's looking at all the water snakes and the creatures of the deep. It says he can't pray. The same thing's kind of happening here. He can't, there's some sort of spell that they have over him, so he can't turn his eyes away from them. And he's just stuck there staring at them with that look in their eyes of, you killed Albatross, and that's the reason we all died. And then it never says really why, but the mariner continues on. And now the spell was snapped. Once more I viewed the ocean green, and looked far forth, yet little saw of what else had been seen. And the gloss says, the curse is finally expiated, or the curse is over. But you have weird events going on here. So the spell snapped, and he sees the ocean green. I don't know why the ocean is green. It could just be like a life-filled ocean. He says, I looked far forth, yet little saw. So he looked far away. Maybe the spell was snapped and he could stop looking at them as they're giving them that like stink eye that he can't pull away from. And he looks out on the ocean. And he says, yet little saw what else had been seen. I'm not sure what he's talking about with the, what he's referring to, what else had been seen. Perhaps it's what he was looking at before when he couldn't take his eyes away from the ghastly crew. Or maybe it's talking about the transformation that he's gone through after he killed the albatross and he learned that nature itself is holy, so he should stop practicing this like Christianity that only worships that other spiritual realm and doesn't really have to do with our world. Perhaps the lesson that he's learned is like there is divinity in nature and the world around us. But then you have an M dash that ends line 445. Which indicates that the next stanza is going to define what else had been seen. So the mariner continues on and says, with this stanza that describes of what else had been, I couldn't see what I had seen before. Like one that on a lonesome road doth walk in fear and dread. So I picture this as, he's making a simile to say, I felt, or the situation is like somebody who walks down a road by themselves. I'm picturing at night, or just picture walking by yourself at night, and then you get that feeling like somebody's watching me or there's somebody behind me. And naturally, when you have that feeling, you turn around and say, like, what's that? So, the mariner says, like one that on a lonesome road does walk in fear and dread, and having once turned round, walks on, and turns no more his head. So I understand this, that you look back and you're like, oh God, I feel like I'm being followed, but there's nobody there. The next part's weird, though. The mariner says, so after the person looks back once, they don't look before. Not because they're like, okay, I know there's nothing there, I'm going to convince myself there's nothing there. According to the mariner, he says, the person turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. So this is archaic, or the original use of the word fiend, which means like a scary or malevolent spirit. So according to this, he's saying, I couldn't see, or I could barely see what else I had seen before. Like a person who is scared walking down the road, turns around and sees some sort of frightful fiend or ghost behind him and says like, alright, I'm just going to keep walking. I know it's there, I know it's behind me, but I'm not going to look at it again. It's very enigmatic. It doesn't seem to do anything to advance the plot again. And again, there's a lot of like that digression that I went over before. There's a lot of effort put into this description here. All the other stanzas in part 6 are 4 lines, so they're all quatrains. This is a sestet, 6 lines. It seems like Coleridge is saying, this is important, look what's going on here. It also does seem to mirror that there are spiritual forces that exist next to us in this physical world that we find all throughout the poem. Your guess is as good as mine, though. Those are just ideas. But it does seem to mirror that idea that the spiritual forces that cause things to happen in the physical world, they exist, and they exist close to us, and we should respect them because we're at their mercy. And the mariner continues on. Okay, so at this point, again, the zombie crew is all looking at him. The spell snaps, so I guess he can turn his eyes away, and now he's looking at the sea. And he continues on and says, but soon there breathed the wind on me, nor sound nor motion made. Its path was not upon the sea, in ripple or in shade. So he felt a breeze, but the ocean looks totally calm. Maybe this is the breeze that's keeping the boat or the ship sailing on, or maybe it's something else that he like intuits exists in the world out there but doesn't exist in the physical world. And he claims, it raised my hair, it fanned my cheek, like a meadow gale of spring. It mingled strangely with my fears, yet it felt like a welcoming. So something about this breeze, it's scary, but at the same time it's a welcoming breeze. It seems like some supernatural something that he intuits or that he can feel, but it doesn't exist in the physical world at all. So again, you have this separation between things that are happening in the physical world and things happening in this supernatural, spiritual world. And this seems like it's appealing to his supernatural, or his ability to intuit things or feel things in the supernatural world that aren't as visible or exist in the physical world, even though they hold power over the physical world. But you get the idea. And so this breeze does seem to be pushing the ship forward. So in line 460 he continues on. Swiftly, swiftly flew the ship, yet she sailed softly too. Sweetly, sweetly blew the breeze, on me alone it blew. Oh, dream of joy, is this indeed the lighthouse top I see? Is this the hill? Is this the kirk? Is this my own country? And according to the gloss, an ancient mariner beholdeth his native country. So, the spirits have brought him home. It said that he still had some penance to do, or some punishment, so this spell is snapped. But he's made it back home. He's on this ship that's been through this long travail. The whole crew's dead, and they're reanimated as little angel zombies. So he's pulling into the harbor that he set out from. And again, you have that repetition of when they left, but in the opposite order. There's the lighthouse, the hill, the kirk, and the kirk is a church steeple. So he does include this twice. He's associating the church steeple with civilization. And we'll get into that more next time. I guess, yeah. Anything else to add, Perry? He's not a very entertaining bird. Unless we're playing punk rock. Sometimes he likes it. Let's try some. Alright, gaze upon my comfortable quarantine pants one more time.